Hi, I'm Brett from Clark's. I'm here to take you through how to use the online fitting gauge in the comfort of your own home. Obviously at Clark's we place a huge emphasis on the perfect fit, so we always recommend that you go into a store as your first port of call. The store locator can be found on the home page of the Clark's website. For those of you who can't get into a store, I'll take you through how to use the online fitting gauge now. So first of all, we have the toddler fitting gauge. This one's appropriate from baby right up to approximately 5 years old. So then we have the junior fitting gauge. So this one goes from about 4 years old right up to adulthood. So now we'll go through how to use these to get the perfect fit. So when measuring for shoes, we always want to make sure that we've got the socks on that are going to go with the shoes. If you're measuring for sandals, you can actually measure without anything on. What we also want to do is just make sure that the socks aren't too tight. So we're just pulling them slightly away from the toes, but not too much. Now we want to put the foot into the gauge. Thank you, Jess. And what we're looking for is a right angle of the leg and a right angle of the ankle as well. So we want to make sure that the heel is set back into the cup of the fitting gauge. And we just want to hold down the toes slightly. Then we push the gauge up just to hit the longest toe. Then we want to look in the window to see what the reading is. So this is 180, Jess. Always remember to write that down so that you've got the reading for later to put into the website. So now we have the length of the foot, we want to measure the width. So to get the width, we come to this tape. As you'll notice, it swivels around so that we can get the widest part of the foot. The widest part of the foot is from the knuckle of the big toe across to the knuckle of the little toe. So we want to move this so that it swivels at that same angle. Then we want to slightly pull the tape and not pulling it too hard and just reading the first reading that we can see at the arrow. So that's 140, Jess. It's always important to measure both feet. In most cases, one foot's going to be longer than the other, so we always want to make sure that we're catering for the longer foot. So now that you've made your selection and received your shoes, we'll show you how to make sure that you've got the perfect fit. So what we want to do first of all is just open up the shoe nice and wide so that the foot slides in quite easily. We also want to make sure that there's no paper stuck in the bottom of the toe. Always make sure that you do up the laces nice and tight. We always want to make sure that we're putting both shoes on as well to make sure that both of them fit correctly. So now that we have the shoes on, there's several things that we need to look at to make sure that you have got the perfect fit. So the first thing we're looking for is to make sure that the lace line is parallel. If it's not parallel here, then you've most likely got the wrong width fitting and will need to change. So the next thing we want to do is make sure that the shoe is secure on the foot. So we're just holding the ankle and giving the shoe a bit of a tug to make sure it doesn't move too much. Perfect. So then we want to check the back line of the shoe and just make sure that the back of the shoe isn't digging into the ankle. We also want to check the ankle bone and just make sure that the shoe is clearing that ankle bone as well. Then we want to check the side of the shoe and make sure that there's no pressure on the foot on the side. So we're checking for the depth and we're checking for the width here as well. Then what we want to do is make sure that the top of the shoe is actually not putting too much pressure on the foot. What we do is we slide our thumb across the top of the shoe, and what we want to see is a slight ripple there of the leather. If you can pinch the leather, or if the leather is too tight and it doesn't move, then we've also got the wrong width fitting. The other important thing, as we measured both feet, we also want to do these tests on both feet, just to make sure that we've got the right shoe on both sides. So obviously Mary Janes are a little different to a lace-up. So essentially it's the same. What we're looking for though is just to make sure that we've got no pressure on that top line and it's not digging into the ankle. So we also want to check the toe line along the foot just to make sure that we can fit the tip of the finger in there and it's not putting too much pressure on the top of the foot. So obviously our school shoes are quite robust. So quite often it's hard to feel the length of the foot inside the shoe. So the best tool we have is the removable inner sole. What you can do is take that out and lay the foot on top of that. And especially with school shoes, we want to just make sure that we've got plenty of growing room here. That looks good to me. So the last step is we want to get them to go for a walk and make sure that the shoes are comfortable. We also want to make sure that we're checking the back to make sure there's no slipping and checking that there's a nice crease on the front, but not too much. Do you want to go for a walk? Perfect.